Good evening, everybody. My name is Justin Green. I'm the County Commissioner for District 1, which includes the Tesuque Valley. And it reaches from the Santa Fe River all the way to the Santa Cruz River. You notice rivers. We're going to talk about those today. And includes the Pojoaque River, the Rio en Medio, and a bunch of other waterways in between Santa Fe and Espanola. The topic for today here is the Bishop's Lodge NPDES permit for their wastewater treatment plant. As many of you know, and some of you don't, this is not actually a county issue. This is a federal issue. This is the federal government permit as it may end up either way permit applications for surface water discharges. I'm learning a lot about this in the last 2 weeks, as are you. But part of this exercise today and this event today is to inform the community, because there's been a lot of not so good information out there. And that's my voice box acting up. So thank you, first off, for coming out. This really actually means a ton to me, because this shows the amount of care that we have for our environment here in the Tesuque Valley. Some of my backstory: one of my aunties, back when I was first living in Santa Fe over 30 years ago, lived right down the street here next to El Nido. And I used to spend every Saturday or Sunday night at her home with a dinner. And so Tesuque Valley is really near and dear to me. But Santa Fe County does not have a role to play in this in the permitting. So we are here literally to hear about this and to hear from you, so from both sides of this issue. And so so that's sort of my introduction to this. This is, a beautiful room full of folks that some of you have multi-generational families who have been here for 7 generations, and some of you, I've got Governor Herrera here and folks from Tesuque Pueblo who have been here for time immemorial. And our goal ultimately is to preserve this valley in a way that's here for the next 7 generations, right? And so when we talk about environmentalism, we talk in those terms, multiple generations. And so this is a difficult subject. We all have a role to play in this. As the children's book says, everybody poops. And we are all here to understand how they're handling their poop. And we also need to recognize that we have a little bit to do in this as well. So I'm going to first do some acknowledgments. I'm going to keep moving on some of the letting the ground rules out here. First off, I want to acknowledge that we have Governor Herrera from Tesuque Pueblo here and a number of the members of Tesuque Pueblo here. And I love Charlie Dormy sitting next to him, so I'm going to make him stand up and so you know his face too, just to embarrass him. So. You can, please. That's right. That's right. We have Jeff Montoya from the Pueblo of Pojoaque, who's the tall guy in the back over there. So. My fellow commissioner, Anna Hansen from District 2 in Santa Fe County is over here. We have members of Senator Heinrich's office here. I haven't seen Alea yet, but she's supposed to be here. We have Matt Miller from Teresa Leger Fernandez's office here. And Eric Chavez from Senator Ben Ray Lujan's office should be here somewhere, if not standing outside here. So we have a lot of representation at all different levels. We have folks from the New Mexico Environment Department here. Again, this is a federal issue, so the EPA isn't here, but we do have people from the Environment Department that do have a role to play in this, if only just to certify and to check the math, as it may be, of Bishop's Lodge's work on this here. And then, actually, I'm going to pass the mic to probably the most important person in the room, who is the fire chief for the volunteer fire department, who's opened up this building to us, but is also going to make a pitch for money and volunteers and your love. So here's Chief.
Well, he beat me to it. That's not fair. I was going to say the fire marshal's office doesn't allow us to have this many people in here, but if you'll just wait a minute, I'm going to get the applications for membership printed up in a minute, and then you'll all be okay. All right, just hang on. The main thing I wanted to say, this is a community event. This is a community meeting. Somebody asked me if I was surprised to see this many people, and I'm not. This is very, very important to the community, very important to our hearts. And is your voice box doing that again? I want to remind everyone, we still have a couple of seats here. If anyone needs a seat, there's a couple of them over here. We'll make room for them. And also, we have people that live beyond the station up on the road. If anybody is blocking that road, please go out and move your car now. I know parking's probably all the way down to the post office or more, but don't block the road, and please don't block the bays where our fire trucks are. If we have a call, you're going to see us leaving really fast. Anyway, this is a community event. Thank you all for coming by and for paying attention to the community as you are. It's very important to me, very near and dear to me as well. And that's all I have to say. So thanks for coming.
Little bit of housekeeping and an acknowledgement. This is being web streamed for community members that can't be here today, and and we're recording this. There's also a documentary film company that is here. If any of you have an issue with this, please and remind me your name again. Michael Campbell. Thanks. It's wonderful that they're here, but you all have the rights to your images and stuff. So if you do not feel comfortable, please speak with him to make sure that they do not use your likeness or your words without your permission. So as mentioned, we're here to understand what Bishop's Lodge has proposed, and Bishop's Lodge is here to propose as well as to listen to you. And there's a lot of very common questions. And so I've put together a number of questions that are my own that I think are important. You all have had a chance to. So we are going to try to curate these questions, and so we don't hear the same thing over and over and over again, so we can get out of here before, as somebody threatened, before 10 p.m. We'll try to get out here long before that. That we curate these questions, but that doesn't mean that that's going to be all the questions. At the end of the evening, at the last 20 or so minutes, we're going to open up the mic for 1 minute, very quick questions. This is not to say that you're for or against it or anything like that. It is to ask questions. You can lodge your complaints or your preferences with the EPA or to the county or to the folks at New Mexico Environment Department in the comment period, which ends on Sunday, the 1st, so Monday, I think that is. So, but today is about information. So if you have a question about this project, ask the question. It's not about rallying the people here today. I'm sorry. You can see there's a lot of concerned people here, but we can't be sitting here hearing applause and whoops and yells to just, we need to get through this. So I appreciate you all being respectful of the lodge, of the folks that are going to speak, of me. Thank you. That's what I ask for everybody here. So there's a relatively loose agenda here where we're going to have welcomes and introductions. We're here right now. The rules, respect, everybody, please, really, this is all about respect and understanding and giving everybody a shot at bringing forth what they've done. Now, I'm going to tell you that what the lodge has done already to deal with their wastewater is actually a great first step. A lot of what we're talking about is the other steps that we're concerned about. So let them present this. You'll get more information and a lot more detail than what you actually know right now. And I've seen a version of this presentation, and a lot of the investment is pretty impressive. But again, we have some concerns on the tail end of this. Again, Santa Fe County's role is really, in this case, as a convener and as an opportunity to hear from them and for them to hear from you and for me to hear from both sides. So I really appreciate the time today for all of this. I'd like to also introduce a whole bunch of other people from Santa Fe County that are making this happen. And one of the most important people in my team here is Ambra Baca is my liaison here. We have Daniel Fresquez, who's running communications and ops. We have Olivia Romo. We have Matt over in IT over there. Hi, Matt. And then we have Sarah Smith. And I just saw our county manager, Schaefer. Greg Schaefer is here. And Leandro Cordova is here. Huh? And Jordan Yutzi from Growth Management. Thank you, everybody. Let's just keep this thing rolling. You need one more second. Okay, here's Scott.
I just went out and took a look around. I have a green Outback blocking the fire engine out there. Please go out and move it in case we have an emergency. We don't get delayed responding with our fire truck. The green Outback.
Thank you. Now, I'm informed that the EPA is watching from far away, so this is a good sign, as is Representative Andrea Romero. So a lot of people are paying attention. I really appreciate this turnout. Again, after Bishop's Lodge has spoken, we will put some questions forward. We will also open it up to some formalized groups that have organized to put a couple minutes towards their questions, and then we will keep this thing moving. Thank you for your patience. I know it's hot in here. I'm going to turn it over to Chris Kaplan and the team from Bishop's Lodge. This is Chris. He can introduce himself more formally, but we've had a few conversations over the last few days to make this happen, and I really appreciate it, and I hope you do appreciate the fact that they're here to present what they're doing. So thank you. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Commissioner. Thank you all for joining today. I have just a couple of minutes of prepared remarks, and we're going to jump into the presentation. I know that's most important and near and dear to everybody's heart here, as is ours. So before we kick off the presentation, just want to say thank you to Green for hosting this event and organizing this, as well as the Tasuki Volunteer Fire Department. This is a great forum and venue for this event. And most importantly, to members of the community. We share all of the same concerns as you do, and we're here to present our future plans with respect to how we deal with wastewater. And it's important to understand that it's not just Bishop's Lodge. This has connection from 82 private residences that are also members of the community. So it's not just Bishop's Lodge that is involved in this. However, the lodge does employ upwards of 250 people annually, as well as the 82 private residences that I just mentioned. We all share the common goal here of sustainability, environmental consciousness, near and long term. We're all members of the community, and we care deeply for the land. Juniper got involved with Bishop's Lodge officially in October of 2021, so a little over or nearly 3 years ago. Sorry, I'm not used to this type of event. So Juniper got involved with Bishop's Lodge in October of 2021, so nearly 3 years ago. And with every market that Juniper is involved in, we're a small company, there's not many. However, we have 3 core values that are very near and dear to our hearts. And first and foremost, that's be good neighbors. Second, be good corporate citizens. And third, if at all possible, leave the community better than when we arrived. It is with these core values at heart that we embarked on developing one of the most advanced wastewater treatment facilities in the entire state of New Mexico. The project took nearly 3 years to develop in close collaboration with the New Mexico Environmental Department, of which representatives are here today, as well as the US EPA. We started a community outreach campaign in April of this year, so almost 2.5 months ago, and spoke to various members, of which I see some familiar faces in the crowd today. Those associations and groups include the Tasuki Valley Community Association, members of the Tasuki Pueblo, members of the Acequia Group, and Bishop's Lodge neighbors, as well as County Commissioner, Deputy County Manager, and members of the county, and now in what is our largest forum, to the community at large. And so with that, we will start the presentation. I think as Commissioner Green mentioned, I know that there's a number of questions. If you could please hold those to the end, I'll try to get through the information as efficiently as possible. And again, welcome the questions after the presentation. So with that, please.
Sorry, you can introduce yourself.
Sorry. I am Chris Kaplan. I am a representative of Juniper Capital, owner of Bishop's Lodge. Kaplan. Juniper has headquarters in 4 different states in 2 different countries. Nearest is Phoenix, Arizona, which is where I'm from.
Doesn't get through the presentation. We can ask these questions later. I'd be happy to post these questions later. But thank you.
So Bishop's Lodge community is committed to caring for the land on which the resort and its neighbors reside. The property is replacing an old wastewater treatment plant that was originally constructed in the mid-1970s, which no longer operates effectively, and is installing a new one of the most advanced wastewater treatment facilities in the state. The new plant has been designed to meet and exceed the high standards of local and national government regulatory agencies, including the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency and the New Mexico Environmental Department. What we're going to be reviewing today is some information on the existing plant, the project team that's been assembled to create this project, the timeline that has been under review, the anti-degradation study completed by the New Mexico Environmental Department, the new plant design, the water quality standards, and at the end, Q&A. So maybe a little fuzzy here, but this is an aerial of the existing plant that is approximately 55 years old as it stands today. Generally, wastewater treatment facilities have a useful life of approximately 30 years. This plant has reached its useful life, and we are currently trucking to the city of Santa Fe's wastewater treatment facility. In December of 2021, approximately 30 days after Juniper acquired Bishop's Lodge, we commissioned Lee & Company, a nationally renowned engineering firm, to conduct what's referred to as a preliminary engineering report to design a wastewater treatment plant that would meet and exceed the high standards of the 2 regulatory agencies that I just mentioned, the EPA and the New Mexico Environmental Department. So again, myself, Chris Kaplan, owner representative, Lee & Company, our chief engineer and designer, Gary Lee, who is on the call virtually, members of the New Mexico Environmental Department, Environmental Protection Agency. We have a third-party wastewater treatment plant operator, BSN Santa Fe, and our general contractor was TLC Company, one of the largest utility contractors in the state. So I think this slide is important because, as I mentioned, Juniper acquired Bishop's Lodge in November of 2021 and immediately identified a need to address the failed wastewater treatment plant. And within a month, engaged a preliminary engineering report, and I think that's topical because I think, as Commissioner has stated previously, the county is in the process of commissioning its own preliminary engineering report as it relates to a regional wastewater treatment facility. We approached the New Mexico Environmental Department and the EPA and began the permitting process in June of 2022. As part of that process, the New Mexico Environmental Department has to conduct what's referred to as an anti-degradation study. We'll go into the specifics of that study here in a little bit, but it's an exhaustive study that was completed over approximately 18 months and analyzed the discharge method and the impact, the environmental impact, if any. In March of 2024, the NMED completed that anti-degradation study that was then submitted to the US EPA for review and analysis. The EPA and the NMED have drafted permits, and we are now in our public notice period and public comment period. Those permits are in draft form and have not been issued. We have the new facility ready to be commissioned, and the intent is that it would be discharging via seasonal irrigation on Bishop's Lodge property. We anticipate receiving approval pending public feedback and response from the EPA. The public notice process that the EPA is conducting right now is 100% in their purview. The lodge nor its ownership group have nothing to do with that process. We ultimately expect it to be completed sometime this fall, likely in September. Next slide. So I'm just going to read this statement directly from the New Mexico Environmental's website. Water quality standards include a framework and methodology known as anti-degradation and how water quality may degrade. Anti-degradation applies to all the activities with the potential to adversely affect water quality or existing uses or designated uses, including any new point source discharges. The New Mexico Environmental Department, acting under the authority delegated by the Water Quality Control Commission, implements water quality standards in the state of New Mexico, including the anti-degradation policy and the implementation plan. As such, NMED requires the highest and best degree of wastewater treatment practicable and commensurate with protecting and maintaining designated uses and existing water quality. The plant that is being proposed, here's a rendering. It will be providing and treating to Class 1A reuse water, which is the highest possible quality of reuse water out there today. For example, Class 1 reuse, a approved use of that would be irrigating crops, food crops. High quality use for irrigation during the summer and ultimately discharge in the creek during the winter months. We will be among the most advanced and high quality wastewater treatment facilities in the entire state of New Mexico. And it has been designed to meet, and in a lot of cases, all of the NMED and US EPA regulatory standards for reuse water. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Gary Lee, who is participating virtually. And I hope, if it's hard to hear, I can take over. But I hope that you're able to hear him because he was the engineer responsible for designing the plant that we're proposing.
Thanks, Chris. Can you hear me okay? Chris, I just want to test to make sure you can hear me.
Yeah, I think I got a few thumbs up.
Okay. So the process that we are implementing here at Bishop's Lodge is what is commonly referred to as a membrane bioreactor treatment system. The system process basically starts with a series of screening devices, basically screen out large elements of material that may come down through the sewer lines so that it doesn't interfere with any of the downstream biological or filtration processes. Once it passes through the coarse and fine screens, it then enters into a biological treatment process. The biological treatment process basically promotes a population of bacteria that use the incoming wastewater as a food substrate and energy source in which they multiply, grow, and basically consume the organics that are being contributed in the sewage influent. Once it goes through that process, it is then will be subject to a phosphorus removal process. We are not currently regulated for phosphorus, but our intent is to remove phosphorus from this process. The purpose and the reason for doing so is to avoid any potential promulgation or growth of algae in the receiving stream during the winter months, because algae loves to grow in water environments that are rich in nutrients such as nitrogen and phosphorus. So our goal is to eliminate or reduce as much as possible phosphorus in this wastewater. Once it goes through that process, it is basically filtered in an ultra-filter membrane. This is a very fine membrane material. It actually potentially filter down to virus-sized organisms. You probably are familiar with sand filters. They're kind of the coarsest type of filter we use in wastewater. And on the other end, reverse osmosis, which is the finest filtering process we use, actually filters out ion particles. Ultramembrane is in the middle of those processes, so it's not quite as robust as reverse osmosis, but extremely more so than conventional sand filtration. Obviously, when you filter materials out, we are removing the biological growth that occurs in the biological treatment process, and that comes out in the form of sludge, or biological sludge. In this case, we are intending to continue to use the old treatment plant to further stabilize that sludge, basically inactivate it, and then ultimately dispose of that sludge into a sludge reed bed. Reed beds are really nothing more than a constructed wetland in which we use that to further decompose that sludge over time. And it will ultimately be converted into a compost. But that sludge in those reed beds won't be removed but about once every 7 to 10 years. So it's a very robust way of treating waste activated sludge from these biological processes. The clean water that comes through the membrane, or I should say the permeate that comes through the membrane, will then be subject to ultraviolet light disinfection. And from there, and at this point, we really are similar in most regards to several other treatment plants in the state of New Mexico, the city of Rio Rancho, and I think maybe less than a half a dozen other membrane bioreactor plants that are active within the state of New Mexico, including in your vicinity. At that point of ultraviolet light disinfection, we are similar. Where we deviate from those and become a little more advanced than maybe some of those other existing facilities is in the next step. And the next step, we are removing copper and zinc. These were two elements that were added onto this project as a result of the anti-DEG study. So we will be removing copper and zinc in an absorption filter process before it is potentially seasonally discharged to the creek during the winter months. During the summer months, I would say between April, maybe some parts of March, all the way through the end of September, maybe into October in some years, we would be irrigating the landscape. And at that point, irrigation water in the landscape is not required to have copper and zinc removed. So during those seasons, we would basically pull the effluent from the ultraviolet light disinfection prior to irrigation. The purpose of all of this process is basically to create a Class 1A reuse water, which is the highest degree of classification for reuse water in the state of New Mexico's guidance and regulations. I might add one final comment, and that is the amount of redundancy that we have placed in this process. As you notice up front, we have a coarse screen and a fine screen. That does provide some redundancy in screening. The ultrafilter membranes, there are dual membranes in there. So if one membrane fails, we have the other membrane cassette to be able to carry the load temporarily. Same with the ultraviolet light disinfection. We have two disinfection units installed. And also on the copper and zinc removal, we have two filters. They actually operate in series, but if one were to fail, then the other one can basically take the load. So there is some redundancy built in here in order to try to make sure that we have sufficient uptime and reliability in being able to meet the limits that are ultimately imposed on this plant.
So thank you, Gary. Obviously, a lot of technical information there. I know it was a little bit of hard of hearing for some. Point here is that this is a multi-step process, one of the most advanced in the state of New Mexico. And the redundancies that he mentioned at the end, I think are very important because next slide, please. So we referenced the Class 1A water. This is a chart of the various classes of water. And as you can see, Class 1A, highest quality reclaimed wastewater, can be most broadly utilized, except for direct consumption.
Questions later. Let Chris finish.
Next slide, please. Q&A.
Thank you, Chris. And thank you for your patience on this. I know we're all itching with questions and we all want more detail in this. We're going to get to questions from the audience in a second, but I'm just going to go with a couple questions that that folks have asked and asked me to ask them. So the first one is, will the Lodge and Juniper Capital demonstrate concern and goodwill by requesting a delay in issuing the permit? Help us create time for more dialogue.
The EPA, who I believe is on the line, again, this is their process of which we're not a party to. However, we have encouraged, given the amount of public feedback and comment received, that a public hearing conducted by the EPA be warranted and be explored.
Thank you. So number two, what other alternatives were considered? Was connection to the city's wastewater plant considered, or were there other options that were on site, reusing 100% of your water on site and removing the discharge into the river?
Yeah, again, this is a 3-year-long project that looked at every option available. The city's plant, as currently designed, is at a much lower quality of water standard, and my understanding is also non-compliant. They're in the midst of a large either upgrade or replacement of their plant. Additionally, the sewer lines from the city are approximately 2.5 miles away from Bishop's Lodge's location currently.
Okay, as a follow-up for that, other alternatives for using 100% of your water on site instead of hooking up to the city's system, which is problematic in itself, but how about finding a way, whether it's a traditional leach field, an additional wetlands? Bishop's Lodge used to have a wetlands and a lake and waterfall system that managed to keep all of its water on site.
Yeah, and again, I think the piece of this plant that we're trying to highlight here is its advanced quality, advanced nature. All of those other discharge requirements have much lower standards than are required as this plant is currently designed. And again, with everything that we strive to do is try to put our best foot forward and do the right thing and build the most advanced treatment facility in this case. But it's not just related to wastewater, it's across the board at Bishop's Lodge.
So hold on. So I've got this. I've got it, guys. Come on, I got you. Give me a second. They're not mutually exclusive. Treating the water to a high level is wonderful. You're going to use it on your grass and your lawns and your irrigation, but you could actually manage to direct inject it into the aquifer. You could put it into a traditional leach field. There are other alternatives that, on top of having this water produced at a good level, also be contained on your site.
Yeah, and again, we've explored those options. We felt that direct injection into an aquifer was not also going to be well received. I believe that's the same aquifer we all draw water from. And again, we also explored leach fields, and with close collaboration with the New Mexico Environmental Department and the US EPA, it was determined that through the high treatment quality of water, this was the best course of action.
Okay. So that's their answer at this point, so I understand that. So, voice back, sorry. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. So multiple sources indicate that the county is paying $4 million for the modification of the Pewaukee Basin Regional System to add the capacity to deliver 1,000 acre-feet to the base of Bishop's Lodge Road. I think there's a lot of confusion in this, but I'm going to rephrase this question. And there's a lot of confusion in here where people have said that Santa Fe County is financing this. And so I'm going to answer this since I represent Santa Fe County at the moment, is that we have no play in this. At one point, Bishop's Lodge had approached the county to help them finance this system, but that was rejected about a little less than 2 years ago. And they have gone on their own to finance and build this system without assistance of the county. So the county, again, has no role in this, literally, except for this meeting here today with you all. So thank you. And then in terms of the water, Santa Fe County is a partner in the Amit, is one of the 5 parties in the Amit area water, Pewaukee Valley Regional Water Project. This has nothing to do with the water discharge for these guys, but we are a party to that, but not to this wastewater treatment plant. Okay. Wastewater treatment was part of another Santa Fe County question. So wastewater treatment was part of Santa Fe County review of the development permit, and I believe called for on-site processing. Discharge application, Santa Fe County should reopen development permit review. I don't know that we can do that per se. We may have a role to play in future development review of this, but we can pass the Manager Schaefer if you would like to answer this. He wears a more official hat than I do. Is Greg still here? Okay, we'll get back to that question at a certain point. So, Greg, if lights aren't working, I will let you project if you want, based on did you hear the question?
I heard the question.
Wonderful. Well, we have joint.
Answer that this evening.
Yes, that's the thing. So a lot of these questions, all these questions that are remaining, either the lodge will answer directly from pointed at the lodge, or Santa Fe County will. We are not we want to discuss this until we get a good resolution here. So hold on. So we're not taking. No, but you can't go first. So sorry, I've got to get through a bunch of these before I open it up. I'm talking for other people right now, sir. So thank you. Okay. So please compare the discharge from the hotel's new system versus discharge of typical residential or hotel leach fields. So is anybody from wastewater, from NMED, or anybody want to take that and project?
Let's try this microphone because the people online are not here.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jason Herman. I'm the program manager for the Groundwater Quality Bureau Pollution Prevention Section. We do groundwater discharge permits, and so we have a lot of experience with these types of treatment systems versus septic tank leach fields. The effluent that's going to be coming out of the system light years beyond what is going on in a normal residential septic tank leach field. We often call septic tank leach fields the death of 1,000 cuts because there's thousands of those households discharging pretty much untreated wastewater into a leach field that then spreads it over a larger area. This is going to be treated through processes that are extensively better than that by far. it would be like comparing a Yugo to a Ferrari, if you know cars. It's a huge difference. There's a question. I didn't want to answer a question without your permission.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Okay. So we don't actually direct where the water will go. It is proposed to us. In this instance, yes, the water could go into a leach field. The water could go into any number of different methodologies for disposal.
Thank you. So this is back for Chris and Juniper. What is Juniper's 5-year plan for expansion, including the hills and the villas?
So Juniper's plan for expansion, I can't comment on the hills and villas that we are not a part of that association. That is 82 private residences, not connected to Bishop's Lodge, but for the fact that they do connect to the wastewater system and to the well potable water system. Future expansion plans at the lodge are TBD. There is a site plan that is approved to include an additional spa, fitness facility, and second pool, but the timing of which those get developed is unclear and undetermined at this time.
Thank you. Are any households or other businesses in Tesuque presently permitted to discharge their wastewater into the Tesuque Creek or to the Santa Fe River? Santa Fe River is not a part of this, but we'll keep it with Tesuque Creek. We have some surface water people here from NMED who probably know the answer to this.
Hi, everyone. My name is Shelley Lemon. I am the Surface Water Quality Bureau Chief for the New Mexico Environment Department. That was a lot to say. There are other discharges. The Pueblo of Tesuque has an NPDES permit that discharges. I have the permit on my phone. Just a minute. They discharge to Little Tesuque. No, this is the wrong one. That's Bishop's Lodge. I'm looking at Bishop's Lodge permit. Well, it goes into an unnamed arroyo and an intermittent stream. So, and it meets the standards for Tesuque Pueblo. And the proposed discharge, we also looked at our state water quality standards and the Pueblo's water quality standards to evaluate the discharge on the water quality in Little Tesuque. I don't think there are any other permitted discharges to surface water, but there are septic systems that discharge underground to the surface waters seasonally.
Thank you. Statistical question about how many bathrooms does the 82 homes have? How many laundry rooms, kitchens? Probably one kitchen per house, but these are very large homes. Do we know anything about the statistics of all the homes up in the villas?
I cannot comment. My understanding is that predominantly they are 3-bedroom, 3-bathroom.
Okay. And just sort of a follow-up, because I saw it in the presentation that I think you were speaking when you presented to us last week, that there was a current capacity or use that your daily use right now is in the 14,000 gallon range, whereas they are permitting for 60,000 gallons for future expansion. So that gives you an order of magnitude where the capacity could go, even if we don't know quite the details of this right now. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's fair. And I think I think that is a good topic to bring up. I think the EPA has announced discharge of 60,000 gallons. The plant as designed was designed to accommodate 60,000 gallons in 2 phases. We are only installing phase 1 today at a max capacity of 30,000 gallons. Our discharge experience historically has averaged, to Commissioner's point, about 14 to 15,000 gallons per day under what is currently developed today. We had to design a plant to accommodate the future expansion within the Hills and Villas Association, because I know that there are a number of undeveloped lots that have yet to be developed, yet to have a home built on them. And again, for the additional expansion that I mentioned earlier with respect to Bishop's Lodge, the spa, the fitness, and the second pool, timing of which those come online, undetermined at this point. We have not submitted any permit applications or building applications.
You have been approved for site plan. Okay, thank you. Are there monitoring wells around the proper stream?
I can't comment downstream, but on Bishop's Lodge property, we have 3 monitoring wells that are constantly monitoring the quality of the surface water and groundwater, and those reports get presented to New Mexico Environmental Department. I believe they are posted online. No.
So one of the things that I would hope that in whatever we do in the future, we don't have to IPRA things. It would be so much easier if we had a dashboard where we could see things regularly. I bet you're advocating for it at the state. So, but nonetheless, these are the things that we need because we need as much transparency as possible here. So a technology that was brought up to me, and so this is one of my questions, is there a plan for inline continuous monitoring with reporting to the county and NMED and to the community where we could see this instead of, I think it's monthly reporting to the EPA? Is there a way to do online regular reporting that sees peaks and valleys and or consistency of your effluent?
So the reporting that the EPA and NMED both have reporting requirements that we are absolutely required and legally required to adhere to. Bishop's Lodge is hiring a third-party independent operator for the wastewater treatment plant. These samples will not be, they are going to be taken by a licensed operator who is legally required to provide accurate information in the timeframes that the monitoring is required to provide it in.
So I appreciate that, but that is the bare minimum when we could have, there is technology to allow for continuous with automated systems. Of course, they might have to have an expert that does this once a month or whatever the NMED or EPA requires, but there is technology to do this automatically. And I think that that is one of these things that yes, I would recommend that as a part of this solution nonetheless. So I'm going to pivot to a little bit about what Santa Fe County has been doing, and Chris mentioned it, and I missed it early on, and I should have said this. But Santa Fe County, early on in my term, about 18 months ago, I was made aware of both the resort, Tesuque Pueblo, the Opera, and a whole number of folks in the valley that were having problems with their current systems, big systems, not the run-of-the-mill septic systems in the area, which also have some problems. But I took it on myself to propose a budget item of $250,000 to do a preliminary engineering report. And the scope of this report was to figure out how to develop a regional plan for wastewater in the entire Tesuque Valley. Something that could take care of their effluent, something that could take care of the Pueblo, something that could take care of the Opera, the casino, Camel Rock Studios. And the best part of it all, it would also take care of all of your effluent. So your septic tanks would actually be able to be decommissioned, and you would be able to have a wastewater stream that would then protect our water for so much longer, because all of us contribute to the problem and all of us need to be a part of the solution. And so Santa Fe County has this money in the hopper. We're starting to convene the major players in this. Tesuque Pueblo already has some money set aside for their facility, but has spoken to us about the idea of collaborating with us. Pewaukee Pueblo has a system further downstream in front of Buffalo Thunder that reportedly has enough capacity to add all of the Tesuque Valley to this. So we're all actively trying to find a solution to avoid discharges into the river, discharges of nasty stuff into the aquifer, and finding a way to really actively do this. So then to my next question is, would Bishop's Lodge commit to tying into the regional system when it comes online?
Yes.
Yes. Good answer. Thank you. Well, so you know what? You plant a tree now, and I understand these things take forever, but I'm your commissioner now. These things didn't happen before I came on. I'm doing my best to expedite these things. So the amazing thing is I've spoken to the EPA, to the Region 6 administrator, and he has told me specifically that there is money in the federal budget available to communities such as Santa Fe County and the Pueblo and the Pueblos to create a community system. And so time is of the essence. The money is in the hopper right now and at the federal plan to then go out and get a grant for that money right now. So I recognize things take forever, but the good news is that there's federal infrastructure money right now that we need to act on now. So I'm trying to act on this, and we at Santa Fe County are trying to act on this out of the urgency of what's going on there, but also the urgency of these other failing systems that are in the area. And so I recognize that these things take forever. I can't promise it won't take 20 years, but I'm going to try my best. Yes, okay, go.
Wells are being checked monthly, is that what I understood? But your wells are the ones that, at this phase, like if you look at the downstream aspects of personal wells, those aren't getting checked to know, like, if this does go into effect, that's going to affect the aquifer, which will affect those downstream wells, right?
I'm not an engineer or a hydrologist. However, we have monitoring wells as far downstream as our property goes. We can't comment on monitoring wells that are off of our property. Those are outside of our control. And again, through the weekly, monthly, and quarterly testing, we're doing all of the testing required, and we'll take commissioners' comment under advisement, and to the extent that we can provide additional testing, we will explore that.
Thank you. Question, what happens to the sludge?
So the sludge, and this is a good question. I'm not sure Gary mentioned it, but I'm not sure maybe everybody. The sludge, there's very little of it. The plant is very efficient. The sludge will go into a reed bed or a small lined wetland, approximately 15 feet in diameter, so very small footprint. And ultimately, as a result of the process and the high quality treatment process, that sludge over time will continue to decompose and become compost that will be used on Bishop's Lodge property.
Thank you. There's a lot of people that are concerned about sludge, both for the things that are taken out of the water and the solids and the chemicals and the things that are extracted. And so that's a real concern. So thank you for answering that. So there's a lot of questions here about redundancies and resiliencies. I think those were answered in the system, in the presentation. I'm going to open it up for a few seconds, and then actually, Alyssa, were you planning on speaking?
I got it.
You got to ask a question? Okay, thanks. All right.
Excuse me, I gotta make some comments, okay? It's not my house.
Your fireman, he deserves a round of applause, man.
Okay, yeah, my name is Chris Romero. I grew up down in Gregor Road. My mom still lived on there. My brother and sisters live up the road about about a mile from Bishop's Lodge is where we live. What's your name again? Chris. Chris, all right. Chris Romero, all right. I appreciate the presentation. I really do. This is a lot of technical stuff, a lot of stuff to understand, things that will fly over my head. And so obviously there's a lot of technology and a lot of NASA science here. And this stuff works, but I think we got to talk about a few issues here. Number one, let me just say, my father was one of the founders of this fire department. In 1972, the school closed down because Santa Fe Public Schools decided that they want to ship the kids to Santa Fe, and it ended up like this. I was 5 years old or 6, but the community had a demonstration or a movement like this. We mobilized. My grandfather was a farmer here in Tesuque. The patron saint of Tesuque is San Isidro. He's the patron saint of the farmer. San Diego down in Pewaukee or at the Pueblo Chisuke's, their patron saint. This is a community of faith, Chris. And God gave us that water. Okay. So here's the thing. My grandfather farmed in Rancho Escondido, just a few, like I said, half mile from where you're at. And I used to drink water out of that little Tsuki River. He irrigated out of the Tsuki River. There's too much risk, in my view, in just putting any kind of effluent into that river. Calm down. Calm down. There's dignity and respect is the order, okay? So here's the thing. I live at 7,000 feet, the elevation of my house. I just drilled a well 3 years ago. The riverbed at Entrada Capulín and Bishop Lodge is at 6920. That's an 80-foot difference. When they drilled the well, we hit water at 180. So that would mean that from the riverbed to where they hit water is a difference of 80 feet, okay? The interesting thing with that, and now this is a question really addressed for the New Mexico people. The November 17th public notice that came out. What's your name, ma'am, again? Shelley. Okay, nice to meet you, Shelley. That public notice that came out on November 17th that had the Bishop's Lodge on it, there were like 7 other notices. Okay, all right. Here's the thing. So there are 7 different notices, and it describes that in Hachita, down in Grant County, 3,000 gallons of potable water will go into their groundwater there, and 256 feet is potentially at risk. All right. The next one is down in Gallup. They're gonna put 15,000 gallons of affluent water into the ground there, and they're about 22 feet below is at risk. The next one is in San Isidro. That's out by San Miguel. Planning to put 10,000 gallons of water into the ground, and the risk there is 55 feet to 10 feet below ground, okay? So like I said, there's numerous here, and the ranges are like, they don't make sense. But they're saying here in Bishop's Lodge, they're gonna put 30,000 gallons of water into the ground. It's 30 on this here. Okay, but the risk is 22 feet below ground where it says in that notice that the groundwater is at risk at 22 feet. If I hit water at 160, that's 80 feet. That's danger close, we call it in the military. Highly too riskful, in my view. So, like I said, there's all these different numbers, and even there's 2 in Santa Fe here, and their groundwater is at risk at like 200 feet, one on Galisteo, and there's one somewhere else. But here in Chisuke, it's only 22 feet. I mean, we're the same terrain here in Santa Fe. I can see it could be different in the other parts of the state, but why are the ones on Galisteo, why is that range so high? Where Chisuke is only 22 feet. Once again, let me just really quickly say something. Human risk, all right? Natural disasters. There's too much risk here. And, hello? Too much risk. And we have to take account of that, all right? Thank you.
So I just want to clarify, the public notices that he was reading from are for DP 75, which is the discharge permit from the Groundwater Quality Bureau, and not the NPDES, the NPDES permit for the Surface Water Quality Bureau and EPA. So we're talking about 2 different permits. There's a permit for the on-site discharge that's occurring that they're going to be using for irrigation. That's a state-run program by my program that is state authorized through state regulations in the Water Quality Act. This is a federal permit that we're talking about here today. So those numbers, just for just brief clarification, there's site-specific requirements and determinations that we make. There's geology, there's surface conditions, there's water quality effluent. All of those things go into our determination of what is protective and what is not, but we have a hard bar with our 3103 standards, which is our water quality standards, that must be met before they can discharge. Two very, very different situations. I don't want them to be confused because they are not the same and their processes are different. That public notice that he was reading from is for the receipt of an application. We haven't drafted a permit for that yet. We have just received an application, and that is as far as it's gone.
Thank you. Yes, okay, there we go. I'm not going to try to do the Latin, so thank you. Yes, there you go. Water fleas and flathead minnows being introduced into the discharge from Bishop's Lodge, or are they species being tested as indicators of possible pollution? So your question is are these being introduced into this, or are these signal and canaries in a coal mine sort of things in that space?
Water toxicity, because in either case, they're gonna cause danger for others to be.
Thank you for your question. That is a requirement of the NPDES permit, and it's called wet testing, which is whole effluent toxicity testing. So what happens is Bishop's Lodge would take a water quality sample, ship it to the lab. The lab does it in the lab space to see how many of those critters survive, how many reproduce, and that's an indicator of if there are toxic pollutants that we're not seeing, that they don't have requirements for, or that there's an issue that we need to correct. Not being introduced.
Great. And so I'm going to hold on to the microphone. You guys can project your question. I'm going to repeat it for the people online so we don't have to go through the thing. So go for it. One at a time.
So one question is why in paragraph 19 of permit application did Bishop's Lodge write to the EPA that this water does not flow to the Pueblo land? One question. The second one is related to trucking out. What we just heard is you could build a leach field there, and that leach field could, you couldn't build on that leach field. It would limit your ability to do so. But couldn't you take that nice cleaner water, which we appreciate for our aquifer? I live 3 houses downstream from you, and I can tell you that I would appreciate, and I would come over with a shovel and so would everybody else. Build something to contain it there, and that will help for your additional system when it comes running.
Thank you. So thank you. So the first question, I think this is still working. I'm not sure, but the first question was the gentleman was asking about a discrepancy about whether this water actually flowed into a Pueblo or tribal land. The river does flow through Tesuque Pueblo, and I don't know why that discrepancy was there or if it was. But I will let Chris answer that.
Yeah, it's on.
So I was not the author of that draft permit or the request for permit, so I will have to go back and look into that. I'm just taking the advice of the regulatory agencies that have reviewed it.
Thank you. And second question, say it again, sorry.
Question is trucking it out, moving that clean water?
Right.
Yeah.
And we can sit down together and work out with.
So to rephrase it for folks online, so why weren't other alternatives looked at? It was asked earlier, but as a bunch of people here and have advised me over the last few days, there are a lot of different alternatives, whether it's trucking it off-site like they do with their raw sewage now. It could be clean water. It could be sold. Right? There's a lot of construction sites and projects all in the valley that can use it. Somebody even told me that, hey, grow cannabis with it. Whatever you want to do with it, it could be sold for other purposes. There's also direct injection. There are a lot of other alternatives that we wish that we had better understanding of, and we wish we understood their how they determined. And so I'll let him answer a little bit more about all of those things and how they determined that this is the best solution.
So again, we have explored all of those options. The existing plant did discharge to a leach field that has failed as a result of nothing that Juniper did or didn't do. This happened prior to our time and involvement with the property. And again, the standards of quality treatment are much lower when discharging through a leach field process. The process with which we're developing or proposing is going to be treating it to a much higher quality than would be required under a leach field.
So I can get you a microphone. So here you go.
I can yell.
No, but somebody online needs to hear it.
Several points of clarification, please, and they're connected. The treatment plant will be located where on the property, like near the corral? Can it be seen from Bishop's Lodge Road? It's not going to be potable water, correct? Okay, so that's very clear. How many acre feet of water rights does Bishop Lodge or Juniper own? And how much will they be taking out? And how much will they get a return flow credit, if any at all? And I'm not opposed to the new treatment plant if it's state of the art and using technology and it improves what's going on now. That has to be proven. Are you testing downstream now? You said you're not a geologist or an engineer or a hydrologist. You certainly are a capitalist. Juniper's you came and made a profit here, and you're taking the profits out of New Mexico, out of Santa Fe. Does it help our community? And so we'd like to have some answers to those questions, please. Thank you.
So there were a lot of questions there. I think I remembered them, but apologies if I don't capture all of them. In terms of the acre feet of water that the lodge owns, I guess, or has water rights to, I believe it's about 34 acre feet annually. And that's not just the lodge, that's also shared with the 82 private residences in the Hills and Villas Association. As a result of the seasonal irrigation that we're proposing, we would be saving on average between 10 to 15 acre feet of water drawn from the aquifer that is currently being used, the potable water from the aquifer for irrigation and other uses. We would be saving that on an annual basis. 1 acre foot of water is approximately 325,000 gallons. So it's a significant reuse and sustainability effort, along with the compost that we mentioned earlier. Forget the second or third or fourth question. It is located immediately adjacent to the existing facility. It is surrounded by 10-foot tall coyote fence. If it is visible from Bishop's Lodge, only the top foot or two.
So I took a tour of the as of yet uncommissioned facility last week. It looks like a standard 40-foot highboy container. It's 9.5 feet tall, 40 feet long, 8 feet wide, and it's all really self-contained. Modern, state-of-the-art, as so they tell me. Now, compared to what they're doing right now, it is a good step in the right direction. What they currently have should not be spoken about in public. I mean, it is really one disaster away from ruining the whole river, right? Because it is untreated sewage. So their first step in their investment is a step in the right direction. So I appreciate that. I hope we all appreciate that. The question is is the effluent going to be detrimental to our river here?
That's the part where how much you're taking out, how much you return. How much that-
We have water rights for 34 acre feet. I don't believe we use all of it. We are not necessarily returning any of it through a direct discharge. It's being used for on-site irrigation, which likely goes through, percolates through to the water table and ultimately into the aquifer. We are not, at this point, seeking additional water credits. We have never sought that. We are lessening our reliance or draw from the 34 acre feet and lessening that to by 10 to 15 acre feet annually through the use of this seasonal irrigation.
They're not applying for it right now, but they would be eligible for it if they did put it in a leach field, hint, 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 right? Governor, do you have something that you wanted to say?
I don't really have a question, but just a comment. I think right now, because of the late notice that we've got, we object to we hereby request an extension to the proposed action. The objection is in response to health and safety of all humans. The Little Tasuki is an intermittent stream flowing only a couple of months throughout the year. By discharging into the stream, what are the future repercussions, the unknown effects to downstream users? The Tasuki Creek is relied upon source of water for irrigation for crops ingested by humans. Traditionally, the stream also has cultural ties and primary contact of concerns. So with that, we're just asking for more tests that we want to get done. So that way my environmental people from my office are looking into this. So that way, if we can find more answers, then whatever the outcome would be. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor. I think that there is a lot of like last minuteness in this moment right now, right? We are sort of caught a little surprised. Well, so we were,
You lost didn't inform us, and there is a world of people, children, of lives that are being lived here, and you decided, the Bishop's Lodge decided, without whatever the answer has been, well, we decided that this was the best thing for all of these people. Explain how that's what I want to know. Yeah.
so the first request that we can do, here with us, like all of us collectively, is to talk first.
Give us the answer. Why?
So, yes,
Do you want to take that?
I'll try. So I will answer a little bit of this. We at Santa Fe County were not directly contacted, but there were community organizations and some other organizations around. But yeah, so I totally agree with you. I agree because I was not informed. I, as your commissioner, as your representative, didn't have a chance to do the outreach. I am upset. I am upset. I am upset, and I'm trying to bring this forward before the comment period is over, because when the door closes, the door closes. The door closes this week, 1 week from today. So we can ask for more time. That is the first step. Governor asked on behalf of the Pueblo. We have a letter that is going to be at Santa Fe County tomorrow to ask for more time and a public hearing that is the official mechanism for the EPA to address this. This is a very informal, beautiful meeting of the community that is here to hear this, but also to hear your concerns. And so we're doing our best to do this.
For years, the county's been.
We have not.
Discuss Bishop's Lodge, the sewer.
We did not know about, we did not discuss, we did not, it was before my time, first off. No, I understand, but the Santa Fe County they discussed helping them finance this. From my understanding, the discharge permit was never discussed. But the discharge is what we're concerned about the most. So, ma'am?
So my question is, my father manages environmental waste discharge in the state of Oklahoma for 50 years. Well, your treatment facility addresses biological things that come out of excrement of people, but it doesn't address non-biological, which is PFAs and prescription drugs that would go into our wells. Another thing, has anyone walked the Little Tesuque Creek? It is not maintained. There are many houses that sit right on the edge of it. It is sand-based, so it does go into the water table. It is not okay to be putting things down. That creek is stopped up at the bridge. I walked it today. It will not go under. The water would flood the other people. The other thing is, what are you going to do when there's inevitable human error with your plant and we get your poop in our water, and once it's done, it's done. We're a historic community. We're not a resort community. We're not. We've been here a long time. I just moved 3 years ago, but a lot of these people have lived here a long time, and several of the affordable quote unquote housing people are right sitting between Little and Big Tesuque with wells at a shallow level with sand where that would drain right into our area aquifer. Not considered.
So I'm gonna restate one of the questions just to give them a chance. Why is it possible for this system to deal with the man-made chemicals, PFAS, pharmaceuticals, and things like that, to take it to, but are there?
So obviously, we've heard a lot of comment and feedback, not just today, but also written response about PFAS and pharmaceuticals. Currently, and unfortunately, nationwide, there is no regulatory oversight or regulation related to either of these. To the extent that regulatory requirements are identified, we would of course adhere to them. Additionally, again, Bishop's Lodge, from a sustainability and environmental perspective, uses no harsh chemicals on property. We use organic cleaners. There is no pesticides. There is no insecticides. The downstream degradation, I would have to refer you back to the New Mexico Environmental Department, who conducted an 18-month-long study analyzing the degradation.
So hold on one second. So I'd like Chris to respond about their public outreach plan and more to the point of why we weren't informed up until this point.
So back in June of 2022, we embarked on this project and had conversation with the county representatives at the Water Resource Authority, providing them our path forward, our proposed path forward. And they were a collaborative effort every step of the way, not necessarily the county, but we talked to the Water Resource Authority, and they passed us on to the proper regulatory agencies that have jurisdiction, both the New Mexico Environmental Department and the US EPA. But in June of 2022, we did have communication with representatives at the Water Resource Authority at the county, sharing them our proposed plan.
So you know, EPA is hopefully still listening, but nonetheless, the message wasn't disseminated relatively properly. And I think that has to do with, at that time, it was a whole nother proposal that was being made. And then they went back and retooled it without county involvement. So a lot of we didn't know, we thought that this was sort of stopped. And that. Yeah. So.
You're working for us.
I am working for you.
That's the first.
So,
That's
yeah, I know. That's about it. So we have a letter to the EPA that will be debated tomorrow at our commission meeting. And we will take a vote on it on Friday. So we have a second meeting that's a special meeting on Friday. Tomorrow is going to be the presentation of the letter. Our fellow commissioners will get to comment on it. I'm going to ask the chair. It is a public process. I hope that the chair, it's up to the chair to allow for public comment. I hope the chair will do so. I think he will. But it is not up to me, but it is on our agenda tomorrow for public comment or for presentation, and then says, go online. So 2:00, 2:30 is the official, no, 2:30 after the whatever. We have two meetings earlier. We've got a housing meeting and we have a community development block grant meeting at 2:00. The meeting should start at 2:30. However, we can discuss at what time. It's not going to be first on the agenda. And so Friday, the meeting is at 2:00 and we will announce that. That may just be for voting. I don't know if public comment will be there. Ma'am, you're up.
Thank you, Justin. Chris, you know you're on the ancestral homeland of the Pueblo people, yes? Have you, Governor Herrera? Are you willing to keep in consultation with the Pueblo people so that you're actually of the land? Because I didn't see them in your partnership slide. I didn't see them listed anywhere.
One of the advanced treatment facilities that was referenced early on in the state, a membrane bioreactor, the facility that we've designed follows the exact same process as theirs. In fact, I believe it actually takes it one step further by removing the zinc and copper.
Still asking
They have, we met with members of their community and their board in April of last year. They have reached out to us, requested a follow-up meeting. I believe that date has been determined to be July 8th or 9th. And we are meeting with them and in constant contact with them. That was their date. They requested that date.
I'll just say that may be their date because we're all with busy schedules and there's a holiday week coming here. But he also asked for more time. So there is the opportunity in goodwill to offer more time. So.
Hey, Chris, you mentioned one of the tenets of Juniper is to leave whatever the world better than how you started it, right? And you showed us a degradation study. So, hello. Okay, perfect. So you said Juniper likes to leave it better than what they found it, and you showed us in a relative word. So if you take the water sample downstream, maybe like half a mile downstream from Bishop's Lodge, the water quality there would be degraded relative to the stream upstream of Bishop's Lodge. So while you're doing all this and you have so much redundancy, you bring up a good system, which is better than the rest of them. Why don't you add some capacity to it to turn that into potable water and use it within Bishop's Lodge? Let's say converting that into potable is not feasible. At least make it enough so they can take a shower, use it for the restroom, for a pool, and all those things, and then put on your rooms that we use all of our effluent, turn that into usable water, put that in all of your room, and tell them don't drink the water. They can use it for the rest of it, and by that and your investment in this sustainable product is your guests are gonna appreciate it. You can even charge them more if you want, any more than what you already do, but at least your guests will appreciate it, and it will be better for the community because the EPA will most likely give you the permission. That's all it works. You check the boxes, and their limits are usually higher than what is really safe for human consumption. We have seen that in many places in US. So that's not going to stop you. You have to tell yourself and show it to the community that you are going above and beyond. And I think those efforts are going to pay for themselves.
So I am a proponent of direct potable reuse. I am a proponent for direct potable reuse. It is what my master's thesis was based on. I am all for it. We are developing the regulations right now that for it. And so we as a state are not prepared for what you're proposing, but will be within the next year and a half.
So as a follow-up for that, this is not inventing the wheel. Maybe it is reinventing the wheel for your rules and regs. State model that you know at another state that could be adopted by the lodge in an effort to preempt your stuff, at least at a level that is drinkable and is potable, that you're not ready to, your rulemaking isn't quite complete, but other states have gone through this and you would sort of say, they're doing a great job.
I think that both Arizona and Colorado have recently put out direct potable reuse regulations, and they're just in the very beginning stages of implementing them. And so a lot of the pitfalls and scary stuff hasn't really come out. And so would I wholeheartedly endorse their formats and their models as being the right one? I think the jury's still out on that. I don't want to speculate on where our rulemaking is going to go because we're really just meeting once a week, 2 hours at a time to try and develop them. And it's not, so there'd be in the world of direct potable reuse, what we call a lot of uncertainty if Bishop's Lodge wanted to go down that road, and we wouldn't be able to give them very good answers, which makes it very difficult to make decisions.
Just to continue on that, would they need a permit for that water to become potable for their reuse as drinking water? Or could they just achieve that without your regulation, just knowing that they've surpassed the bar that you've set for reuse or whatever your highest standard is, but they then say, this is certified clean enough for operational for their own use, their risk of having something move, but of course it's their risk for a system failure.
I would not use that phraseology because I'm trying to be a proponent for it. That is the equivalent of what we're talking about here. And I would not recommend Bishop's Lodge go down the road without our authorization and our support of a project. I'm on it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So lots of hands in the back. Will you please project your thing and I'll repeat your question. Keep it to one question so I can actually get it through my head and repeat it, please. Go ahead, Alyssa. Rusty, I can reach you with a microphone. So here, yeah, but people in the world need to hear. So
My question is directed to NMED. The major change that we're making here is we're going from a change in distribution of this waste. It's not going to go into a leach field and stay contained on Bishop's Lodge property. It's going to go into a stream and be distributed by that stream system and all the aquifers it feeds. So that introduces an awful lot of uncertainty about where this waste is going to go, where the contaminants in the waste are going to go, the partially treated waste. And it also accelerates the distribution. It's going to move a lot faster through our ecosystem. So my question to NMED has to do with their non-degradation study. Commissioner Green, thank you, distributed a portion of the study this afternoon. It indicates that NMED looked at 19 different pollutants. Degradation study. Most of those were minerals. I didn't see listed in the pollutants they were examining any chemicals. I didn't see any pharmaceutical waste products. And so I would like NMED to confirm, please, with respect to their non-degradation study, what kind of weight should we put on this when it's not examining the contaminant stream that's actually going to be discharged? And the last part of this is, if I read the permit correctly, there is no limitation or restriction on what contaminants the 85 residents of Bishop's Lodge or the property owners and the lodge itself can put into the waste stream. They can put anything they want into this waste stream. And we have no idea what it's going to be or where it's going to end up. So if I'm wrong, please clarify why I'm wrong and how I'm wrong.
thank you.
Thank you for your question. The anti-degradation analysis looks at baseline water quality. So my bureau, the Surface Water Quality Bureau, takes ambient water quality measurements throughout the state. We have data from Little Tesuque, we have data from Tesuque Creek, downstream. We data in the anti-degradation analysis to set the bar, right? To say, okay, here's our baseline water quality. Then we look at what the river is used for. We have in our water quality standards what's known as designated uses. Those are things, I heard a concern earlier about primary contact recreation. We have irrigation standards. We have wildlife and aquatic life standards that we apply to every single water body, including Little Tesuque. So when we're looking at the data for the anti-degradation analysis, we look at a whole suite of data, not just minerals. We look at chemicals. Part of the anti-degradation analysis actually came back that copper was going to be contributing more than what we wanted as a state. So they redesigned and they're applying a different treatment scheme to take care of that additional copper to bring it down to the level that we are looking at. Our anti-degradation analysis does not look at the water quality standard and see if we're going to exceed that standard. We look at the baseline and see if we're going to exceed that baseline. So we're looking at baseline. I would have to look at that study specifically to see what you're talking about, because there's definitely more than 19 contaminants that we look at that we have standards for. No, there are no water quality standards for PFAS. No, we do not. Those are called emerging contaminants. There will be a requirement to monitor for those things, I believe, in the NPDES permit. But currently, we don't have water quality standards. EPA doesn't have those standards. They are just coming out with recommendations for that type of work. There are no restrictions on that. The purpose of the wastewater treatment plant is to filter that waste stream so that when they discharge it, it meets water quality standards. Correct. And septic systems definitely don't catch it either. So, you know, throughout this whole community, somebody could be contributing something that we're not aware of. And it's the same. Well, there's a lot more septic systems. That's amazing.
Okay, these are far away. So I'm going to go this way. Ma'am, say your question and I will repeat it. So where is it? Where is the discharge occur? Where is your proposed discharge occurring? Is it at your property boundary as it's leaving your property, or is it on your property somewhere more centrally located, or at the beginning of your property? Like, for instance, if you decided to discharge it at the top side of your thing, most of that water would then seep into the ground on your property, as opposed to discharging it at the edge of your property where it becomes all of their problem.
The discharge is occurring at the plant site, which is located at the stables. On the north side of the property.
Even on your land. You know?
So again, we're following the regulatory limits by the NMED and the UEPA.
Sorry. I'm going this way. I'll get to you guys. Former Governor Mora. Go. You want to?
I think I can speak, John.
He is also a volunteer fireman. Yes.
That water, higher.
Yeah.
Here. Emerging firemen, Boston responds to the help of others. There's fire. Always need. Boston.
Yeah.
Just put it. Start something from the back. That's why we put up. Really? Here. Yeah, 300. No, 10 pieces of that, better than that. Big, big, property. So, you know, the farm is going on here, right? Turn it back. But I do want to emphasize the need for water. Water.
So under our proposed plan, our desire is to irrigate for as long as possible. That's obviously going to change based on weather conditions. Some months, it may be 10 months, some months it may be, or excuse me, some years, maybe 10 months, some years it may be 8 months. During those winter months, when the ground is frozen, seasonal irrigation is not possible. We need a consistent opportunity to deal with the wastewater during those months.
So there's definitely appreciation for a water tank, both for selling it or for using it for fire control or for just keeping it from having to be discharged. There's all those alternatives that are out there that we all want to understand, and we want to sort of gently push them in the right direction, I think. But so guys, we're running out of time. We were supposed to be done at 7, and I just want to kind of try, we need to let staff go. I could stay here all night. You can ask my wife. I'd talk to you all day with this stuff, but I'm going to ask a couple questions in the back because you all have been gently waiting. Sir, go for it. We talked about Back up here. Uh, so it's- why? That's always giving up. So I'm going to repeat that question, paraphrasing slightly. First is the aspect of auberge. This is an auberge resort. It is a 5 or 6 star resort that has a higher standard as their portfolio, as well as in trying to do this. And you would think, I think you're saying that they would want to uphold that higher standard as well as one of their commitments to their communities. The second part of this is that regulations change for good or for bad, and we need to probably set our own higher standards to what we think is acceptable for our community, whether it's discharged into a river or whether it's discharged into the ground. Does that do it? Thank you.
So with respect to auberge, auberge is a luxury hotel management company. It has no relationship other than contractual with Juniper Capital. They have been hired to manage the day-to-day operations of Bishop's Lodge and the various other hotels that they manage in the portfolio that they manage. Typically, hotel management contracts are very long-term contracts, many, many years. I'm not going to comment on the specifics of this one, but generally speaking, they average 10 to 20 years in term. There are members of auberge here today. What was this? What was the second question? Oh, standards change. So the plant, as proposed and designed, is being designed to accommodate any future changes, with the ability to NMAD's point, as one of the minerals that was flagged as part of the anti-degradation study was copper. That was brought to our attention, and we added a filtration process to address that. This plant has been built in a function to where you can add on additional treatment processes or pull them back to the extent regulations change in either direction.
Hold on one second. Go for it. Okay. Great. So whether it's percolating or actually with a good rain, it's going to run off, and runoff is going to do that. And it could have that degrading prospect there. So that goes to a question, just to repeat your question, is that the NMED requested in their anti-degradation plan to remove additional levels of copper and zinc, which they're going to do during the winter months, but you're saying why not do it in year round, because so I'm gonna take that question and give him one more, because which is very related to that, which is would you consider, an expert out and somebody that I really trust in the water world asked, would you consider a granulated activated carbon treatment system that would remove PFAS in pharmaceuticals? That seems to be the state of the art program or protocol right now. And so this is a question for you all. As one of those added steps, even if it doesn't quite work with state regulations, it is a proven solution right now.
In terms of the copper and zinc, I'll address that first. As a result of the anti-degradation study, it was flagged. And so we added this additional filtration unit. And again, to Commissioner Green's point, this is not a small screw-in filter. This is another container, 20 feet long by 8 feet by 10. So it's a significant step in the treatment process. And it was designed to bring those levels down to below regulatory limits and exceed those regulatory limits. I am not here to make any decisions today. I'm quite frankly not authorized to do that, but I will take your question and comment back and discuss it with the team and see if it's an opportunity to include that treatment step process during seasonal irrigation. Our engineer said that, yes.
And the PFAS activated.
And the PFAS, again, I'm not authorized to make comment or agree to anything today. I'm here to listen and hear the concerns, but it is something that we will evaluate internally.
Thank you. I'm going that way with the question, so I'll get back to you, I promise, but go for it. Sure. So the question is who's okay. So the question has to do with because of this added volume on the river, there are bridges and culverts and unstabilized banks that might be impacted by having an added volume on the river. Has that been looked at either by the county or who's responsible for that? I agree. That is one of my concerns at Santa Fe County, that we have bridges and you all have bridges to get to your homes. We have culverts and roads that go over the river. There are a few concerns about that. It may be insignificant, but we need to know, or it may be very significant, and we certainly need to know. I don't know, and I don't think so.
We don't ask you for regulations, all through it, but also we want you to, once again, it's established. But it's how much that it focus. We will attack the open brand. We will work on social media, and we will keep this fight going. Because you have to, to people want to pay sellers on that. And who's going to want to that's the neighborhood that you exist in.
Okay. So I'm gonna comment a little bit about that in an aspect that puts that in perspective. We're talking about a 5-star or 6-star hotel. We're not talking about a 2-star or 3-star hotel. And so they are in theory at the highest standard in the country of the nicest hotel in the country. I agree, and I think we all agree, that their water and their effluent should be at the highest standard and the highest degree of potability and use and non-impactful, negatively impactful for our community. It seems consistent with what I said. It seems consistent with what Auberge wants to say, but I can't speak for them and I can't speak for Auberge, but this is kind of what we're asking for at this point. And so and this is it. So I'm sorry, I'm going to take one last question because a lot of people need to go home. And yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Everyone in a decision-making role at New Mexico State, the federal level, county level, please respect the Pueblo. They asked to be consulted. They want to be consulted, and the date that was provided is after the public comment period. It's not fair. It's not fair. We're on their land. This is our chance to acknowledge that this is their land. We are on their land, and we need to respect them. We owe it to them and all the people that live here, our friends, our families, our neighbors. So please delay this decision. Whoever's in charge, please delay it.
Thank you. Any last comments from you? No, you good? Okay. So guys, thank you. I really want to tell you how much this means for me that we can all rally for something like this. This shows how important this is. The comment period ends on July 1st, but hopefully we can find we can find either in their heart or in the EPA's heart, or both, that we get an extended time so that we can address this comprehensively and collaboratively, because working together, we might actually work with something that's better. But right now, we still have questions, and I recognize that from everybody. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Get home safely, please. Thank you very much. Good night.
You're just finishing.
Damn. Did the cat get that or is that you angry?
Floating around outside, ironic.
Logo?